Okay. Courtney, I don't know if you're going to reveal all. You don't have to, but because we are not mainstream media press, do you know what you're doing next year? Or not? There's a few rumours.
The big question straight away. Where are we signing for?
Ask him. He's friend of the show. Have you got in your mind what you don't even? You don't need to tell us the decision, but it'd be great if you did.
No. It's still kind of in the workings, to be honest. Like, I've got a fair idea, but we're still kind of working through it. The thing is, like, I'm a Saints boy, you know. I'm Saints through and through, and you know, all things being perfect, I'd stay. But at the same time, there's opportunities elsewhere. Of course, there is always going to be. So we're working through it as a family, and then you know, we'll make our decision and you know, do what is best for us first and foremost this time. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We're still in talks.
And do you need any advice on Brive-la-Gaillarde or anywhere around there? Because I mean, I happen to play there for 2 seasons.
Yeah, I heard you played there for a bit. Yeah, what was it like?
Tell him the truth.
The truth is, it's a lovely place if you win, which wasn't that often when we were there. It's very industrial. I lived in a village called Saint-Ferréol, just outside, and it was nice, but it's quiet. So if you want a load of family time, it's good, and no doubt a load of euros. But it's not Toulon. It's not Montpellier, it's not Paris, but it was good. There's skiing about an hour away. You can ski there as well. So yeah, mate, good spot. Simon Gillam, massive shout out to him, as you might know him, Courtney. I don't know. Have you spoken to Simon Gillam, who's the big boss man at Brive? Brilliant bloke.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I spoke to him. Obviously, I spoke to a few clubs. As I said, I've got to keep my options open. This will probably be my last contract. So,
1,000,000%.
So yeah, got to make the right call, but thanks for your
yeah, we're trying to push on that. But look, Courtney, I suppose you can maybe speak quite frankly about it now that you are out of the England setup. I don't know what your opinion is. You're obviously losing the other captain of the club in Lewis Ludlam as well. He's off to France to play. We're seeing Joe Marchant. He's talking about coming back from Paris. Henry Arundel, just to kind of name a few, right? That the draw of the top 14.
Faz.
Well, Faz is going as well, obviously, is the headline name. But you can see the draw, right? Something that we've spoken about as a current player playing in the Premiership, as an English legend. Slightly different for you, but what is the draw? Is it the obvious one? Is it the financial opportunity as well as the kind of change of scenery? Maybe just give us an insight into what the lads are all saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't speak for anybody else's motivations. Like, for me, it was really clear that I wanted to be in England. I wanted to be playing for England. I certainly, over the last kind of 5 years, have been, you know, really trying to hone in on them kind of 100 caps, just to say that you've done something like that and you've achieved that level of you know, success, I guess, for your country. So it was never really. On you know, in my plans to go abroad before I kind of achieved that, and now being older again, to be honest, it's very much to do with financial security after I finish playing. Like, I think it's, you know, it's one of the things. I'm not saying we obviously get paid quite well to play rugby, but the toll on your body, and when you compare it to other sports and what they get paid, for obvious reasons, I'm not saying they don't deserve to. You know, it's mad to think about somebody, or there's players that have played for England 50, you know, to 100 times that, you know, have been the top of their game for years and years, and once it's all over, they have to go back and get another job.
Yes, I do.
So,
but with that, Courtney, it's a really interesting point, right? And it's interesting listening to you talk about it, because the way that you speak about it is the way that I don't think you should speak about it. You're apologising. There's almost like there's an apology and there's an embarrassment from players to say, oh, these other sports get paid that. I would speak about the game, and I think that you lads, I think that the players, not me, the players should be getting paid significantly more. And I know, and Goodey, we have this kind of debate around salary caps, and we understand in the kind of where the game is as a whole, but I'm looking at it from the output of the lads,
Yeah.
right, Courtney? And you put your head in the spokes for many, many years, right? And you've given your body to the game, and the finances around that are significantly different to any other sport on the planet where you have to put your body through the same thing. And it's great. I don't think you should apologise to be like, well, what other sports get? Like, I think we need to push the dial on that, and that is why Japan and that is why the top 14 is so interesting for the players now, right?
Do you speak Japanese, Courtney? Are you learning Japanese?
He eats Japanese. He eats Japanese and he speaks Japanese. But you know what I mean? I do find we're all apologising for it. Well, I'm not anymore. I've just gone fully nuclear on it.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But I suppose the fact is we can't financially afford to pay our players that much. The clubs aren't in a position to do it, and that is something that we need to kind of develop.
Saudi
better,
money,
much better.
Bring in the Saudis.
Well, whatever form it takes. Honestly, we need to build rugby up. We need to make it the product it can be, and therefore the product people want to buy, people want to get involved in, and people want to watch. And it can be that 100% can be a sport that people throw money at. But at the minute, we haven't got that part right. We're not producing what people want to see. So that has to change. And, when that changes, then we can start demanding, the money that we should really be earning as professional players of this caliber and what we put our bodies through.
100%. Courtney, I mean, everyone has a life plan, and you're going through yours at the minute for what you're saying is going to probably be your last contract. What does post-rugby look like for you in your head? Do you want to stay in the game? Because obviously we're talking about the future of the game here. Do you want to stay in the game from a coaching perspective? Are you got different business interests that you want to get away from it? Some people want to stay in it because they love it. Some people want to keep one foot in and do other stuff. Yeah. And some people want to get as far away from it as possible. Where do you sit, Courts, in terms of post-career plans?
I'm definitely kind of one foot in kind of guy. Like I don't love watching rugby, or any sport. Honestly, it's just not. I like playing. I like being competitive. I like being in amongst it kind of thing. But the only competitive sport I watch that often is probably UFC. But having said that, I do, because I've kind of accumulated so much experience. I think I've learned an awful lot about the game. I do kind of want to give back in a way, I guess. So I thought about doing some kind of mentoring stuff and working with young prospects through different school systems or clubs, because we get a lot of academy lads that come in nowadays, and it'd have been the same in your day, mate, as well, whereby they've got all the athleticism, all the talent, all the skills you could ask for, but just not. They're not thinking about the game how they should be, and they're not developing as players how they should be, just because they're not focused on the right things, they're not thinking about the right things and stuff like that. So, and I'm also really interested in S&C and recovery, nutrition, all that kind of stuff as well. So I think I'd like to work quite closely with some good young players and try and develop them as quickly as possible, and obviously work on their kind of longevity in the game, which has been one of the biggest things of my career, probably.
Yeah, I'm a massive UFC fan as well, Courtney. Like, it's a sport that I've followed for years. Producer Rob, we go back and forth on different things. The biggest thing and the biggest difference between, I would say, the UFC and rugby, and there's loads, they're obviously different sports, right? I completely get that. But is how unapologetic they are about marketing.
Yeah, I literally knew you were going to say that.
I know. But it's an obvious thing to say, isn't it, Courtney? And it almost feels like we've played against each other for years. You're still playing the game. You're an incredible athlete. But even going back to you, like, kind of apologising about the money, the UFC and other sports and the Super Bowls just happened over the weekend. The glitz, the glamour, the carnage, they embrace it, right? And I think in order for our game to move forward, that is the space that we need to leap into. You know what I mean? Like, there is that kind of, you open up a press conference. I know it must be difficult. You're sat there with Steve, and it's kind of, you've got the press there who are writing the articles. No disrespect. I mean, not many people reading the articles these days because they consume it in a different way. But just letting your hair down and just saying, you know what? Like, we've got whoever it is Scotland at the weekend, and we're going to pull the pants down, and we're going to go out there and we're going to fuck them up. As in, at what point do we get to that, as opposed to just saying, hopefully we'll get a good game and we just want to. It's a difficult shift, and it's like any sport. Until we go down that route and someone does it, and someone goes all in and says it how it is, then we're going to be kind of stuck in that kind of void of you can't say anything, you can say anything, because. What was it like as captain, Courtney? Were you given, like we were back in the day, a sheet of paper and saying, like, these are the key messages, make sure you get them out there and don't say this and don't talk about that?
Yeah, of course you get them kind of messages. You'll get what Steve wants, or whoever the coaches at the time, what they want to push, and also they're probably going to want to talk about this, and we don't want to go in that direction, kind of thing. And I think what the UFC has obviously got going for them in their athletes is they're very American, so they're culturally very different to us anyway in that respect. From my point of view as a skipper, knowing the motivation you can draw from a headline, if somebody gives it to you, you also don't want to, put your foot in it that way, because I know the Australia tour that we won, the last couple of tests, they were telling us what they were going to do to us. It's just all motivation for us, and it can really make a difference, that kind of stuff. So I don't think we need to even go down this on an individual route, but I think we just, as a sport, as the people up top need to be less apologetic, less scared about what rugby is. It's a hard game. It's a tough game. It's for tough men. It's a dangerous game. And people like that. That's why they like watching it.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's not football where, they're going to pass it around for a bit and then there's a bit of excitement. This is a game where you can get a hit any point in the game. You can get a line break, all kinds of stuff, turnovers. There's so much exciting going on in rugby. Just lean into it. Stop apologising, for people getting hurt and all this kind of stuff, because as long as we know what we're going into as players, as long as we understand the dangers of it, then it's up to us to participate in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's UFC fighters, there's boxers, there's all kind of stuff, mountain climbers, free solo and all that kind of stuff. People understand the dangers, but they're still willing to go through it because it's their choice. Do you know what I mean? So, I think that's the route we need to kind of go down, whereby the people up top just need to stop saying this is a game that anybody can play. Yes. They say it's a game everyone can play. It's not. No. Anybody can play rugby from any background, any shape or size can play rugby, but not everybody can. And it's about time we stopped apologising for it being a game where not everybody can actually do this. Not everyone has the grit for it. Not everyone wants to get hurt. And that's
the sell, isn't it? That's what we speak about. And I'm with you. Like, you're almost regurgitating how I see life, mate. Because the tagline of rugby is for everyone, the inclusivity part of that, I'm the same with you, just to kind of reiterate what Courtney's saying. Yeah, you can walk into a rugby club, any walk of life, any shape and size. But the biggest shift for me was at the World Cup, when I was pitch side for them quarterfinal games. And I was like, this is absolute chaos.
Gladiators.
And it was, and we always speak about the gladiators and doing that. And, back in my day when we were doing it, and it felt like that. Mate, it's different now. The power and the speed and the size, and there's not an ounce of body fat on these players at the top level now. They are the most athletic human beings walking the planet. And with that comes a value, right? And with that comes a commercial value. And we haven't found that commercial value yet. And you look at the Six Nations, all the stadiums are sold out. That needs to transfer onto the pitch, in my opinion, when you look at it. But again, it's a story for another day. We're going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but...
Yeah, what was it like, Courtney, on Saturday being there? Because Courtney was at Twickenham. You were working the corporate hospitality suites, weren't you, Courts? But the big one, we'll come back to that. What was it like post-match in the changing room? Did it feel a bit odd? Or were you looking around, and obviously it's the same lads, a lot of the same lads that you just played with at the World Cup. They were like, fucking hell, what's he doing in here? He's gone. Was it all good vibes?
Yeah, Yeah, it was good vibes, man. Like I spoke to Genji in the week, had a little FaceTime with him to see how he was doing and making sure that, because he's obviously coming back from injury, I wanted to know how he was and that. So, but he's doing well. And he was like, "I'll make come through." I was like, well, "Look, if the boys would have me there, I'd love to come through," kind of thing. So, yeah, I went into the change rooms after, and it's strange when you're not in it, because you know. Honestly, and I'm not going to be able to. I haven't really thought about this since I was in the change room, and I don't think I'm going to be able to kind of contextualise how exactly I was feeling. But it's a very different visit in the change room, being a fan to an extent, and knowing that it doesn't. It's not on me to sort out what's the problems, or I don't have to review the game and stuff going on, and that's obviously the first time in 14 years I've been in that change room where that's not the case. I haven't got to worry about what we need to fix or what we can carry on improving going forward and stuff like that. So it was quite kind of freeing, I guess would be a good. I felt quite free and unencumbered by being in there, which is not normally the case, obviously.
And did you enjoy the pre-match, the corporate hospitality and speaking? And
I don't think so. I'm going to say no. I don't want to speak for him, but you might have a different answer.
Do you know what? I don't actually mind it. Like, look, it's not the annoying things about it, and there's nothing you can do about it, is that you have the same conversation 40 times over. So that's always going to be a bit tedious, and there's no way of getting around it. But that is what you're getting paid for. That's why you're there. But I don't actually mind meeting new people. Like, a lot of times you actually meet some interesting people. And the Q&A kind of stuff. Again, I'm just kind of try and be honest. I'm always gonna be a big fan of England, and I want to make sure that comes across. I'm always going to try and be positive, and it's quite hard, obviously. We're trying to find ourselves as an England team, so a lot of the time I'm trying to find ways that I can express a positive message for the team.
So with that positive message and expression for the team, what do you make of all the talk coming out of camp from Jamie, the coaching team, about this new style of play that they want to adopt? We saw a snapshot of both the games, but having got to a semi-final, nearly won that semi-final at a World Cup, to then kind of rip up the script and lay a new foundation of play. What was your initial thought with that, and how are you seeing it?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. The hardest thing, or one of the hardest things you've got with England in particular, and I guess to a lesser extent Wales, but England in particular, is we come from so many different teams. So it's so hard to adopt any kind of game plan that everybody can just pick up and kind of run with. Having said that, I think the game plan is actually pretty good. Like, the blitz defence is a tough defence to get right, don't get me wrong, and they're not going to get it right. They're not going to have it 100% right by the end of this tournament. But because we run so much in the Prem, we're a really fit league as such. Like, we do a lot of running rugby kind of thing. I think it will bear fruit in the end. And it's kind of high risk, high reward rugby. Like, you see what they did to Wales in the second half when they didn't really get anything, and you can turn over a lot of ball and stuff like that. And I think it'll be good against teams like Ireland that like to play quite pretty patterns. You just get in their faces and disrupt it, kind of thing. But as I said, if you get it wrong, you can leave some pretty big holes, which was evident at the weekend. But in terms of attack, I'm not exactly sure like what the game plan is yet. Like, I'm not sure how clear that is. But what I do know is that we have to play more rugby. We have the players for it. The Prem teams, as I said, play a lot, for the most part, play a lot of running rugby. And we've picked a lot of players that are on good form, so let's not let that go to waste.
Yeah, 100%. Looking at the game now, you look at stats and everything like that. England had 37% and Wales 28% of rucks under 3 seconds. And you look at the game was quite turgid. It was actually entertaining in a different way because it was so tight. And, England were chasing the deficit 14-5, whatever it was. And it made it into a battle. But it wasn't unbelievable rugby. Normally you're getting 60 to 70% of your rucks under 3 seconds. So that's where England and Wales probably want to get to. And listen to Jamie George and what Courtney is saying, the evolution, the defence looked fucking good at times. And I know people are going to say, it's only Wales and they didn't have massive ball carriers, but it was so connected and like they were defending for 20 odd phases and Wales are getting absolutely nowhere. The add-on is then getting turnovers, playing off the turnovers in against an unstructured defence with width, with offloading at the right times, and then adding onto that our attack from first phase. But like Court says, you're picking players like Slade in the centres, who's been on form, Freeman on the wing, been on ridiculously good form. And I think we started the game that way, or tried to start the game that way a bit, but then ultimately the yellow card to Ollie Chesham, which was never a yellow card in my book. What are you boys thinking about that? You big second rows. I know Courtney's more of a
Well, that's a Courtney tackle. Even for Courtney, I'd say that was a low tackle.
It's never a yellow card, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful. Again, this is part and parcel of it. Like, at what point body height do you have to be to say this is just a rugby incident? Do you know what I mean? Because Ches is literally horizontal at the time he makes that tackle and the contact to the head, and he gets the yellow card.
The referee said he was upright.
And that's the problem.
It's the terminology that we use, and again, it's so easy, Courtney, and we can go down some of the decisions that we can be very careful as well. Like
I don't have to be careful about referees.
Well, I know, but as it's hilarious. And producer Rob, I was chatting to him, obviously the Scotland stuff just blown up massively. So me and producer Rob are talking about, but my mate Craig, big shout out to him. He's a Scotland fan. He's fuming, right? He's fuming, but he watched the Whistleblowers documentary and he's like, now I feel bad that I can't say anything. Like, I was like, where were you going to go? But you have to be careful, but we have to be honest. So it's a fine line between being negative, being divisive, opening up referees. But as ex-players, as a current player, and for England, it's lucky that didn't cost them the game. But
the interesting thing of it, when you listen back to it on Ches's yellow card, they couldn't initially get the clip up, could they?
No.
In the stadium, and they couldn't get it to the referee. And the TMO have said, it's just penalty only. And then all of a sudden, he was like, obviously the TMO was panicking a bit because the producer couldn't get the replay up and show the ref, and basically the TMO was like, it's just a penalty, back near the 22, and then he goes, hold on, I've got the clip had obviously come through, and then the ref James Dolman has gone, it meets the yellow card threshold, see you later,
and said he was upright. And we don't want to go down a rabbit hole like we've talked about that, because we could pick things up, but
that affected how England, because we then they end up at the other end of the field, they get the penalty try, which, let's talk about that one then. Because the maul, and you two are maulers and brawlers till you die, the maul's going at a rate knots towards the England line, but Mara's on the ball.
Yes.
And yes, it's a penalty against Ethan Roots for sacking it. It's never, in my opinion, it shouldn't be
It's just how fast it was going.
Yeah,
that was like,
but they're not in control of the ball. So then England have to then try and play a different way because of, being under pressure for 20 minutes pretty much with 13 players. And England will come. We're 2 from 2. The fucking Grand Slam's on, boys.
The Grand Slam is on.
But that's what I mean, Courtney. We were talking about it last week, and actually, what an addition as well Dan Biggar was to the TV.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and he actually gave away the game plan, didn't he, before the game? He was like, Wales were working on the rush defence of England, and how that was going to turn out with these crossfield kicks. He actually gave away. So I don't know whether there's anyone in England that would have picked that up. You know what I mean? But he was in the Wales camp, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Like Wales's game plan was so spot on. And Courtney, I know you're not an avid listener of the show, albeit a big fan. I've always said that Wales are going to struggle. Every year I've said that up until recently. And people you speak to, we had RG Snyman on the podcast, and I said, what's the team that you hate playing against? And he said Wales, because they never go away. Mate, Wales, with all the changes they've had, looked fucking good. Very physical, coming round the corner, wicked in collisions. Tommy Raffel was absolutely amazing. Like Aaron Wainwright, the physicality they've got. They're not an easy team to break down, are they, Courtney?
No, certainly. And their back row is really their heartbeat, and honestly, it's for a lot of teams. If you get your back row combination right, you're going to do a lot better, than if you don't. And Wales, with Rafael over that ball, just making every ruck an absolute shit fight it can't be understated. Like, every team needs a serious jackal threat nowadays, because the ruck is so important. Your ruck speed is so important. And then Wainwright is obviously playing great, and he carries and he does all the other stuff. And they've got a really good balance to their back row, so that helps them. And then you like the addition of George North in the centre as well. Obviously, I played with him for years. He had a great game, and he just gives them that front foot ball almost guaranteed. And they're really struggling. I spoke to Biggs last week. I spoke to Tipperick at the game, and the Welsh rugby is not in a good place at all at the minute. But hopefully for them, they can continue to, perform above and beyond their kind of station at the minute, and that will only help their cause. But again, another nation that's on the back foot at the minute, unfortunately, for a reason.
Tommy Rafael, in my opinion, should have got man of the match.
I was literally going to say, and I love Benno. I'm a big Benno fan.
Played very well.
But if you were to say who was the best player on the pitch,
well,
Tommy Rafael was the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to map it out like that, which is crazy, but that's an old school way of looking at it, isn't it? By just picking someone from the winning side. But like with
they also I don't agree with just picking the MOM from the winning team. It doesn't make sense. Like, you're the man of the match or player of the match or whatever they say nowadays, regardless of what team you're on. If I've played games where we've had people play far and away better than anybody on the other side, but we're still just about on the losing end of it or whatever. It doesn't make sense.
Happened to me.
Oh, here we go.
It happened to me. Genuinely, my one and only time I won man of the match for England, we played Ireland at Twickenham, and I kicked a penalty with about 3 minutes to go to put England ahead, and they announced it over the stadium, and I'm like, fuck yes, get in there. And then Ireland go the length, score the winner in the corner. Shane Horgan scored the winner in the corner to win the Triple Crown. I didn't care, because I was jumping for joy that I'd won the man of the match as well. I did care. I had to do an interview post-match with the man of the match thing. I'm like, and you have to pretend, obviously don't pretend, but you have to be gutted because you just lost the game in the last minute. But it's kind of weird, but I agree with you. Like, whoever is the best player on the pitch, give him man of the match, and Tommy Rafael was.
Yeah, I won man of the match in 2013, Courtney. Don't know if you remember it.
Against Romania?
Against Ireland. I was at the front of the line out with Rory Best, like, get the ball in, get the ball in, get the ball in. I've been screaming at the front. Did that ever put you off, Courtney, or not, when I was at the front of the line out?
Not really.
Great honesty. Back to Wales. Wicked. Like, I'm. You know what? With all the struggles there, Courtney, and like, I agree. We know, like, they've got big issues with the clubs, like the Ospreys are talking of moving, the funding in there, everything they've been through. But when they put on that red jersey, they turn into fucking superheroes, and they grow. And with Gatland there, and with the voids in their position, like the back row, 100%. Whatever back row goes in there, you think who they got to come back as well. You've got Jack Morgan to come back into that, and everyone's talking about him as
he's a good player, man.
Wicked.
He's a good player.
The big void has been Biggs. I think Dan Bigger, Gareth Hanscom leaving, and this comes on to Johan Lloyd, is it? This comes on to Johan Lloyd and his performance, and whether or not it should be him or Sam Costello or Gareth Hanscom to hold that position at 10. You listen to Biggs and talk about how talented he thinks this lad is. How did you make his performance out?
Johan Lloyd is very talented. He's very inexperienced. I don't know how many games he started at 10 in his career, maybe 10, I'd say. And that's the biggest stage for a Welsh fly-half to go away to Twickenham. And the difference, I think, in the end, the difference between the two teams was experience. George Ford pulls out that 50-22, doesn't he? And I know George Ford had the conversion where it was kicked off his tee or stuff like that. But just the game management, the game understanding, the experience of England when they bring Coley on, Genji on as well. And a few positions, front row was obvious, the experience. That
the
England
bench
had.
made a big difference.
Yeah, it did. But Johan Lloyd had some good moments, but obviously had a couple of clangers as well. Wales scored the try or get the penalty try, don't they, early on? And then England have got two in the bin. He's trying to run it from under his own sticks, which Marrow sees what's happening, his eyes light up, goes and smashes in, we get the turnover, Ben Earl scores the try. There was a few errors in there from him, but in his defence, he's very inexperienced, at that level, and it's the hard, in my position, it's the hardest position to play with no experience in the coalface of a blitz defence coming at you. It's hard for him. So he'll learn from it. And Wales, were probably masters of their own downfall. The penalty that they gave away, easy penalty. I think it was Tompkins offside from a box kick, easy 3 points. Some of the errors that they made that led to England's scores were self-inflicted, I think. So Gats was very proud of their performance. Johan Lloyd, some good parts, some inexperienced parts. Will get better with the experience, but it is the big thing. You lose bigger, and then Costello's the next guy in. He was injured. I know Callum Sheedy's gone back to sign for Cardiff for next season. I'd have him in the squad as well. They haven't got Patchell's injured as well, isn't he? So they haven't got a massive amount of depth in that position. So they're punching above their weight with what they've got, I think, at the minute, Wales. And I mean that respectfully, because they have lost so many caps out of their squad and they've got some injuries, and so ultimately it's a game they probably will look back on and go, we should have won that. Had they tidied a couple of bits up, they could have won that game, which would have been huge for them. And now I've got a mate in the office who's Welsh. Good luck to them, because they're going to Ireland up next. And then they're basically going to end up with a wooden spoon game against Italy in round 5. So I feel for them.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, wooden spoon. Maybe
No,
Scotland.
I don't.
Scotland will be in that as well, maybe.
No, let's not talk. We're going to talk about Scotland in a minute. But just some standout performances, Courtney. Ben Earl obviously got man of the match. Sam Underhill, man from your own art. He can hit a man, can he not?
Yeah, he's a class player, and it's good to see him back on the scene, to be honest, because he obviously had a couple of years there where he was kind of off grid, just trying to get back fit and that kind of stuff. So it's just great to see him back in the team and performing well. And like I said, we've got a lot to work out in the back row. I think England in our balance, because Unders and Beniel are actually relatively similar players. I suppose their skill sets, maybe I just think they're similar because they're both the same height. Tiny,
but they are very similar. Ben's probably a more physical carrier, if you like, or more power.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. And Unders is definitely a much better hitter. Tackler, defensive player, but also that 6 spot is going to be an important position. Like what kind of player they go with, because we've got a lot of really well-rounded back row in England. Like Tom Curry, who can do anything, Ben Curry, who can do anything, Ben Earl, who can do anything, and same for Unders. We've also got Tom Pearson, who's not, had a look in, but he's been absolutely class for us. Plus X amount of others and Roots coming through, Chandler and all that. So we've got an awful lot of back row. It's now just probably about finding the right balance for it, because you almost... it's tough, because you definitely need nowadays a jumping 6 or at least a jumping back row. Otherwise, you're just leaving yourself so exposed in the line-out. So I think George Martin may play 6 eventually. I don't know if it's fit or when. I know he got an injury coming into camp, but I think Percy, he might be the next kind of big 6. A workhorse. Bangs, physical, maybe not quite as athletic as the other back row, but he can do a really kind of good workhorse and line-out job. It'd be interesting to see how that back row.
He bangs as well, doesn't he, George?
Oh my goodness, mate!
Yeah, he hits.
He does it.
Yeah, he hits. Yeah, he's extremely big, and he's like 120 odd kegs, big physical bloke. Yeah, and jumps well. Talk
to me about Chandler Cunningham South, because I'm really impressed with him every time I've seen him play. He looks like he's got even bigger. Like proper stack now as well. Where would you play him?
He's an 8.
You pick him at 8.
He looks like an 8 to me anyway. Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked with him obviously, so I don't know like how good he's in the line out, all that kind of stuff. But I know he plays obviously 8 for Quins. And where did he come on at the weekends?
He came on for Unders,
didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess he would have played 6.
And that's the thing, Courtney. I think when you speak to anyone now who knows anything about the game, and I was chatting to Justin Marshall today, and he was talking about New Zealand, that they've not been the same since they've not had Kieran Reid. Yes, they've got Ardy Surveyor, who's probably similar to Ben Earl, right? He can play across the back row. And it's something that we've spoken about. Like, I know Caelan Doris played 7 for Ireland, but really is an out-and-out 8. Just a big lad that can straighten the line and is a focal point. So it's a little bit old school, like the Falatau, Billy Vunipola in his pomp, like Kieran Reid. Do you know what I mean? Like Dwayne Vermeulen, Jasper Wiese. You actually think about the spine of a lot of teams, it has an identifiable man playing 8 of that kind of mould, right? And I suppose that's what you were talking about, right? The balance of the back row. Yeah,
definitely. And also a lot of the time 6 now. You're 6, for New Zealand, for South Africa, although they obviously Steph Toy plays 7, but he is a 6. That kind of player that is a big physical line-up, jump in, do a lot of things really well kind of player. I think as we're talking about Chandler, I think he looks really physical. He looks really athletic, and he looks like he'd be good off the base of the scrum to me. But it's tough in it because Benny Earl's playing so well. But he can also play, 7, and you can let him battle it out with, I suppose it'd be Curry and unders for the 7 position or whatnot. But I don't know.
Well, it's easy. But
come out of retirement, Courtney. Chuck your hat in the ring as well.
Yeah, but would Courtney want to be at the back of the scrum and like picking and going? Because people listen to that and be like, well, Ben Earl scored off the back of the scrum, but it's a different carry, isn't it? Like you're on about when there's actually a bit of traffic, right? As in to get over the game line.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And look, if he's at 8 and Benny Earl is at 7, you can switch them, you can interchange them as and when you want. So that kind of stuff's not really a problem. And when you get the tougher carries and you're getting out of your 22 and you just want someone to get you a bit of front foot, that's when you have the big lad chucking up. But look, he looks extremely impressive and athletic. I think I want to see how consistent he can be and play. And hopefully we just need to make sure that he's and Steve will be great for this, that his kind of skill errors don't creep into his game, because I've noticed that in a couple of games throughout the season or whatnot. So if he can tidy up all that kind of stuff, it'll be a hell of a
What do you mean skill errors? What do you mean specifically with that?
Like against Italy, he carries really hard, but he got a habit of knocking the ball on or that kind of stuff. So like just doing the basics really well is something you've got to have locked in when you're playing international rugby.
I'd have Tom Pearson in there. He's been ridiculous.
Oh, massive Tom Pearson fan. But that's what I mean. Like and this is the question marks around England. Like, did you learn anything about the game against Wales for them? Like that they've got a bit of in them. They can do it under pressure. That George Ford can manage a game.
You were calling for him to get dropped, James.
I wasn't calling for him to get dropped. I questioned whether or not they'd play him or they'd play Finn Smith.
Yeah.
Of how they want to go forward. Because if you're an England team and you've got this new look, Courtney, across the whole team, then why not change all of it? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with changing teams. I don't agree about talking about teams in transition. I've always hated it when I was a player, but watching it now. But I'm like, if you've got George Ford, you know what you're getting with George.
Yeah.
Exactly, every single week. He played brilliant, and he does some games. He's wicked. Yeah. Like he's a world class 10.
Yeah.
Of course he is. But my only point, Courtney, was last week was about, well, if you're going to change it up, and you're talking about players playing together, and you look at the 9, 10. If Finn came in 12 with Dingwall as well, you've got Freeman. You know where I'm going with this. You look at Ireland, right? Yeah. They're all Leinster players. With a couple of non-Leinster players in there. So that's why I was talking about that.
You're basically saying, pick Saints, play like Saints, because they're fucking on fire.
Well, they are on fire.
And give Sam Vesti the coach's job as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Old knob cheese Sam Vesti is on fire as well as the coach. Pod.
Rugby pod.